Joining us now on the line is political analyst Dr. Levy Ndou to discuss various political stories we are chasing for you this afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Ndou. Perhaps let's start with what we are likely to see in those GNU budget negotiations. Of course, this all coming before Wednesday's vote on the 2025 fiscal policy framework. When you assess what we are hearing in terms of negotiations, particularly between the ANC and the DA, what do you make of these developments?
Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me. I think it's a very critical moment for both parties, and coincidentally, they've both been having their meetings over the weekend, and obviously they were busy strategizing on how they are going to approach Wednesday. What the ANC would love to see is the approval of the budget, and what the DA would love to see is the ANC being weakened, is the ANC that should be seen not to be trusted by people in the Republic of South Africa, but also the DA would also love to be seen as a factor in the government of national unity. And they do not want to be seen as the constant follower of everything that the ANC does or say. So they want to keep their identity, and I think they want to use this moment to ensure that ordinary viewers or ordinary people that are interested should see that even though they're in the GNU, they're a factor, and some of the positions that they stand for could also be adopted by the GNU.
And I mean, when one looks at it, there's obviously quite concerns about how the ANC has also gone about this, some suggesting that this is a numbers game for the party, wanting, of course, to go over that threshold. But when you look at the signs here, especially as the ANC, we're hearing that it is also consulting other parties, including the Freedom Front Plus. We know, of course, we saw that statement from Action SA last week. We understand they're also consulting with Build One South Africa. What is at stake here, essentially, for the ANC?
The ANC would love to see itself having the programs that they have being implemented. And of course, most of these programs will require financial resources. But beyond that, the ANC wants to create a and a working relationship with other smaller parties so that whatever that they would love to see happening in Parliament has to be achieved. And this, in my view, will require a lot of negotiating skills. It will require a lot of give and take, because with all these other parties, whatever you bring on the table, they will also be making some demands. And my view is that if indeed they are able to work with smaller parties, they might be able to get a threshold. But it is important that political parties, all of them that are in Parliament, could do their best to ensure that the interests of ordinary citizens are actually served. The bickering, the differences are supposed to be there, and they're always going to happen, but you need our political leaders to be able to come together and serve the citizens because they're elected to do so. This standpoint and stagnation and the inability to reach consensus or agree does not assist ordinary citizens, and it does not put South Africa in a very, very good map.
And I want to just, touch on that last point that you've made, Dr. Ndou, particularly because, there are some indications that, given if this is how things are going to go, there's a huge concern that the GNU may not even last, 5 years or a couple of years at that point. But just given what we've been seeing, we understand, of course, that whilst the negotiations are, very much approaching some form of deal. There are, of course, sketchy details just coming out, including, of course, the DA being consulted on the country's key network sectors, including finance, including transport. How would you characterize how the DA has also been coming into the negotiating ring, given, of course, these concerns that if the two parties that are the largest in the GNU carry on in this manner, they may not last to 5 years?
It is unfortunate that the GNU appears to be taking the direction of undermining the role of Parliament. It is also unfortunate that when there are issues similar to this one, that are supposed to be dealt with, other issues will be raised so that the budget has to be approved. And my view is that the members of the GNU should be able to deal with issues one by one. And of course, if they realize that they have not agreed or on certain policy issues, they should actually deal with those isolated. But the unfortunate part is that you would know now that some of the demands will be that you need to deal with the Land Act, you need to deal with other issues. So it is no longer about the budget. It is about other laws that a government has actually adopted. And the unfortunate part is that lawmaking takes time and it will require Parliament. So those who cannot deal with their issues in Parliament, and in this case the GA, would love to use their GNU status to undermine Parliament. And we're heading towards a very, very unfortunate situation. But my view is that in this kind of trying times, that is where you need to see leadership. And we need the leaders of both the ANC and the DA to put their petty differences aside and make sure that they are able to move South Africa forward.
And just talking about other dynamics, you know, that may affect just some of the political relationships that we are currently seeing, they may not be working well. I wonder what your response then is in terms of the uMkhonto weSizwe political party now having launched another bid to invalidate the 2024 national and provincial elections just 8 months after it withdrew its early application in the electoral court, saying that this time it has a watertight case, also saying seeking an order that will set aside the polls and subsequently order fresh elections within 90 days. What does this all mean?
The uMkhonto weSizwe party is created out of the faction of the ANC. It's a party that is created out of anger of certain individuals that were not happy with what was happening or what is happening in the ANC. The uMkhonto weSizwe party has always raised issues relating to the 2024 elections, and most of us thought that they could not pursue this case further. And it is not a surprise also that they've taken these matters to court, because they also want to be seen as a factor in South African politics. And the status that is given to the MK party of being the main opposition puts them in a situation where whatever matter they would have tried to pursue, they should be seen to be moving forward with that matter and ensuring that they draw as much attention as possible. What we should therefore expect would be the kind of evidence that they should present, because if they say indeed they've got a watertight case, therefore they should be able to present all the necessary facts that will actually nullify the elections. It might not be an easy thing to do, but of course, maybe they've got something tangible that they can present to the Court of the Republic.